1, 2, 3.
Welcome to IHIP News, where we share our opinion about the news that is important to us. And I have something rather alarming.
What is it?
To share with you and our viewer. And you've heard the whisperings and you've heard the rumblings, but there's so much shit going on with the right wing. And they just throw all of these shiny objects up in the air constantly. And then Trump says all this crazy shit about the late, great Hannibal Lecter. And he's re-truthing stuff about the Reich and all of this crazy Nazi stuff. But in the throes of all of that, a very organized and very ambitious and very conservative group called the Heritage Foundation has been silently preparing and publishing their plan for 2025, for a Trump victory. And it is called Project 2025. And let me just tell you what their blueprint is. First of all, abortion will be banned nationwide.
Right.
Contraception will be banned shortly thereafter.
It's jaw-dropping.
So these are the people that after 9/11, when Bush and Cheney were in office, you know, they were all about the Arab countries hate us because we love our freedom. All of that was a ruse. These conservatives do not want people to have freedom. They want control, and they want a system of religion and government, much like a lot of the countries in the Middle East do. They just want to change the religion from Islam to Christianity. But there is absolutely no difference in the policy they're pushing forth. The Supreme Court will be locked hard right for the next 30 plus years. The climate crisis will significantly worsen beyond our ability to mitigate it. And I think you probably read in the news that Trump was begging all of the oil tycoons to give him $1 billion.
He has no shame, and he doesn't even hide his corruptness. Policy switch for money.
There's going to be more tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires. And I think that I recently saw in the news where you see him speaking at Mar-a-Lago or at one of his rallies when it's kind of, you know, like a high-priced meal donor type dinner. And he tells them, there's a lot of people in this room that make a lot of money, and I'm going to lower your taxes. You know, and it's kind of like it's really sad because all of these really working class people think he's their savior.
Right.
And he sends, you know, like psycho emails them like a stalker and buy my Bible, buy my sneakers, give me $5. And they send it. They send it to him just like they do all these mega church pastors, and they're completely getting grifted. And it's really sad.
It is sad because single-handedly, the working class is supporting his legal troubles, his attorneys, his campaign, and he doesn't give a shit about them. He wants to take care of the million and billionaires, and for whatever reason, they don't see that.
Also, he recently gave a speech where he was talking about being a 3-term president.
Right.
And I don't think there's any question, viewer, if Trump wins, this upcoming election could potentially be the last election you ever legitimately voted in. I mean, they'll roll out a bunch of voter fraud, but if he's in, he's never leaving. He will die in the White House. He'll probably have himself buried at the White House. It's completely over, and it gets worse. If he wins, there will be a recession. And how do we know this? Because there's been a recession during every Republican presidency for the last 100 years. Republicans, this is the biggest myth on the planet. Republicans think they are so good economically, and the facts show differently. They always tank the economy. They're terrible at business. The reason why this myth is perpetuated that Republicans are good at the economy is you see rich men that are Republicans. And why are these rich men Republicans? Because they want to pay less taxes. Also, shout out to Mark Cuban, who paid his $250 million in taxes and tweeted it and said, these are the rules and here's how I do it. I loved him for that. Okay, so then we've got nobody can have birth control, and then we're going to have, a crazy ass, cruel punitive Supreme Court. Trump's never going to leave office. We're going to be in recession. Inflation, I think, will continue. And here's where it gets really sad. He'll probably fire 50,000 federal workers and replace them with Trump loyalists per Project 2025. This is what it outlines. And it lacks checks on his power, and it will make it more likely that he will remain in office beyond his term. The Department of Justice will shift to being under direct control of the White House, and this will allow Trump to arrest anyone who's mean to him.
That's right. And he is the most thin-skinned motherfucker on the planet. What strikes me about all the employees that he wants to replace, he had safeguards in his presidency. People were loyal to the Constitution and not him. He wants to change that if he were to be reelected. And one thing that I keep coming back to when I think about this is after 50,000 people lose their jobs, they will be replaced with loyalists that I think we can all assume are not going to be very bright because he surrounds himself with low IQ criminals. Like every single person he's ever worked with, every lawyer, not every, but a majority are criminals, either going to jail, indicted. It's jaw-dropping to me.
I think that he would probably, he's so unhinged. I think that he would probably take after he pardons the January 6th criminals, he'd probably appoint them. I mean,
Sure.
he's so thirsty for people to be obsequious to him, to be surrounded by sycophants. It makes perfect sense to me why people worship him, because he acts exactly like the Old Testament Christian God. I mean, it's the exact same character. It's like this real abusive love thing. And, Trump belittles so many people in the working class, and how he's so popular in the working class, I think can only be explained by, number one, a lack of culture in rural America. So Barack Obama was right. They do cling on to guns. They do cling on to religion. And now they're clinging on to this Trump cult because there's no culture out there. People go to the church and they get even more radicalized. And now they go to the internet and they're even more radicalized. And meanwhile, these crazy ass people at the Heritage Foundation are ambitious. It's like crazy ambitious. And they play the long game, and they are brazenly publishing this and putting it out. But Trump does so much crazy shit all the time that this just kind of, you hear a whisper about what they're going to do. And that's why we wanted to highlight it. Okay, so he fires 50,000 federal employees. The Department of Justice will now be his personal little mafia squad. Russia will annex Ukraine, and then it will move to invade other European nations. And they'll probably start with Poland. And here's what's sick about this. America will join Russia to invade our former allies, because America will leave NATO. There's no question that if Trump is elected, Trump joins with Putin.
Absolutely.
Because he wants to be Putin.
Right.
He wants to have the kind of money Putin has. He wants to have the power he has. Neither one cares about integrity. All they care about is power. And this will all go down the toilet for a grown-ass man that wears a diaper and puts on terrible makeup every single day and has horrible hair. All of our culture and history for that man. It's insane. So that's why when these Christians say Trump is our imperfect vessel, they mean it, because this is their plan. They want the United States to be Christian. They want it to be very, very much like Sharia law, but with Christianity. Trump will close the pandemic preparedness office. And so as you see the climate warming, we're so much more vulnerable to pandemics. And so that will just go completely, untreated.
Well, he's already said he doesn't want vaccines. The federal government will no longer fund schools that require vaccines.
The Department of Education's gone. That's over with. And that crazy Betsy DeVos, she tried that. All of these voucher stuff is such bullshit. When they say, well, parents get vouchers, all it is they want public education gone, and they want to fully indoctrinate and radicalize kids from birth on, because they realize if they get a objective education and they use their critical thinking skills, they're probably not going to be so prone to magical thinking and think about, people walking on water and virgin births and a bunch of T-Rexes and elephants and tigers getting on a boat and floating around for a while. If you get educated and you start thinking critically, your mind is going to open up and you're not going to believe in all this crazy magical thinking into a God who has to be worshipped all the time, much like Trump. This is where their Christianity is just such bullshit. It is total bullshit, because every Christian I know in this state is the biggest piece of shit when it comes to immigrants. Mm-hmm. The louder they are about their Christianity, the bigger piece of shit they are about human suffering, and countless and millions of citizens will probably be rounded up and deported. And some people could have the wrong name, or they could have a Hispanic name. They could be American citizens, but because Trumpism and the Heritage Foundation is founded on white supremacy, Black and brown people are going to suffer. And I implore our viewers and our friends and our community, these people who are loud and proud about being Christian, that refer to Black and brown people in a disparaging way, it is the height of hypocrisy, because they do it all in the name of Jesus, who, FYI, if Jesus were real, would have been brown.
Right.
So, and then this is where it's going to get horrible, is Trump will use the military as his own personal goon squad, and he'll arrest peaceful protests, and he'll probably charge them with the Insurrection Act. He'll round up anybody who's protesting anywhere. If it's a women's march, if it's Pride Month, he will round everybody up and throw them in jail. And our entire culture, our entire country is just going to go the way of Russia and Hungary. And these people in America, they are religious nuts. So it's going to go far more the way of the Middle East, because America is full of religious nuts, and they have had a minority rule for a very long time. And they are about to, if Trump wins, they will take their minority rule completely over the finish line, and this country will be full-blown Handmaid's Tale.
That's what I keep thinking when all of these things come up, is Handmaid's Tale. Like, this is Handmaid's Tale territory. Starts with contraception, or starts with abortion, then contraception. I mean, it goes on and on and on, using the Supreme Court to make these laws for Christians by Christians. No separation of church and state. Misogyny on steroids. It's unthinkable, but it's here.
And that's what happens in the United States, and the global ramifications of Trump winning, and what it will do to NATO, and the United States partnering with Vladimir Putin and starting to go after Western Europe as his partner. Mm-hmm. It's mind-boggling, but it's a very real scenario. Also, that these rubes that live in the suburbs and in rural the United States can just feel so good about being pieces of shit Christians. That's the purpose of it. They want to take their religion and cram it down everybody's throat, but they are racist, gun-toting, anti-life, big government, bullshit Christians. And the root of all of this, Heritage Foundation, all of Trump's supporters, is crazy Christian culture, and America has a crazy Christian culture problem. If you live in the big cities, you don't see it as much, but you get to the suburbs and you get to rural America, and these people have no culture. They sit around and watch Fox News, take their guns, shoot shit up, and they're scared about immigrants, and they're scared about all of these things. Because this is the way I see it. If you live in a big city and you think about evolution and how we've used evolution as a species to survive, You have to evolve and accept diversity in order to survive in a big blue city. We were in New York a couple of weeks ago. You walk down the street, you hear people speaking all different languages, all different skin colors. You have to accept it in order to survive. You live out in the white suburbs of Oklahoma City, or you live out in rural America. In order to survive, you think you can't let those people in.
Right.
And so though there are vast pockets in America that are devoid of culture. And so where they find their culture are in these hate-filled, hellfire and damnation Christian churches that are eating the souls of these people that should be enjoying their life, that should be gracious and kind, but instead they're worried about punishing women, homosexuals, Black and brown people. And now they're just completely brazen about it. They're loud and proud about it.
That's the thing that I have noticed in the last 8 years, the difference. The racist, homophobic, misogynistic, sexist people, they are no longer trying to hide it and be on the down low. Now they are publishing agendas about it. They're talking about it on Fox News with zero regard. No self-awareness because they believe it and they've been emboldened.
And the cognitive dissonance they're even more proud about now, because you see these like horrible comments online, like on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. And then you go click the profile and it's, you know, Christ is king, Jesus is my homeboy. And it's like, now they just, it's just like a weapon and a shield all the time. And the cognitive dissonance is just on full blown display. But I've said it once and I'll say it again, and I'm going to keep beating this drum over and over and over again, because we live in a red state. We live in a very evangelical Christian state. Evangelical Christianity and far right religion, whether that's like the crazy Catholics, is ruining this country. It is absolutely ruining this country. It's not enough for these people to have their church and go there on Sundays. They want every motherfucker to be miserable with them. They can't stand it that women have jobs, that women are intelligent, that in many ways probably women are better at doing certain jobs than men are. They can't stand that gay men can just fuck with reckless abandon without having to go through the mating rituals of being heterosexual. And they have all of this internalized guilt and shame and self-hatred, and they want to spew it out on the rest of everybody else. And I'm telling you, until the government gets serious about taxing these churches and getting, you know, a very firm handle on our education system and getting these crazy parents out of the school board meetings, this is going to keep growing and growing and growing. And the indoctrination in the United States doesn't happen in public schools. It happens in these crazy hate academies. It happens in these Sunday school classes. And that's where people get really radicalized. And then it takes hold. And then by the time they're teenagers or adults, they work for the Heritage Foundation, or they work for Donald Trump, or they're on the Supreme Court.
Right. Or they're watching Fox News on a loop and believe it.
Stocking up on ammo and guns to take on the federal government. All right, that's all we got. Stick with us for more hot takes.